Hello again. This is a video focusing on attraction, all right? So why we like who we like, what is it that draws us to other people, right? So interpersonal attraction, we talk about it in this context, like what draws us towards relationships with others people. And that can be platonic with friendships. It can be romantic interest, sexual attraction, right? One of the things that we're going to see with this, though, is that this is both a biological process. We want to explore some of the things happening within the body itself, but then we're going to pull in a lot of stuff from social psychology as well. All right, so this is not something that's straightforward. There's a lot of complexity here that maybe we don't realize, a lot of different factors that are influencing this. And so oftentimes it can be pretty difficult to predict, right? So one way to think about it, just a question, reflection question, why are we attracted to some people almost instantly while others never seem to spark any kind of interest whatsoever? Okay. So just to clarify a couple of things, attraction itself is not something that's purely physical, right? It's not always rational, right? And it's influenced by a lot of different factors, right? So for example, there's this idea of what's called sapiosexual, right? So this is you being attracted to somebody because they are highly intelligent or very skillful or adept in some kind of area, right? So it's not necessarily a sexual attraction. It could be a romantic attraction or interest, but it's just you're attracted to someone because of their intelligence, right? So there are some key areas that we do look at, though, that we have studied. Psychologists have looked at what is it that we can determine these are things that we're attracted to in other people. And yeah, so number one, we do tend to see a pretty significant factor is physical appearance, right? So how we present ourselves are very important for first impressions, dating interest, and perceived desirability. Okay, so there's an idea out there called what is beautiful is good. All right, what it says is that typically speaking, the more attractive that we find another person, we tend to attribute to them more positive qualities. Right, so typically speaking, generally speaking, the more attractive someone is, we tend to think they are nicer, they're a kinder person. To a certain extent, we think they are smarter or more intelligent. We tend to think they're more successful or popular. We tend to think they have more friends, right? They're more socially skilled and successful, right? We're more likely to attribute all these positive qualities. Okay? Now, what does it mean to be physically attractive, though? Right? So research consistently show that people tend to prefer when facial symmetry is the same. All right. I always think about that episode of The Office where they kind of are looking at that at one point. So facial symmetry, clear skin, because it's a sign of healthiness. All right. So in general, signs of health and vitality. Believe it or not, one of the things that we see is that it's actually the most average facial features, right? Not something that's very distinct, but usually the most average ones are the things that we look for. And then kind of going back to this sense of health, but the more youthful someone is in their appearance. Okay. Now, what I think is interesting with that is stuff that we have to consider is things like with social media or the pictures that we post, how many people are using filters to maybe alter some of those things to maybe enhance their attractiveness to other people. Okay. One of the things that we're going to see too is that what we tend to focus on with this might be influenced by a lot of cultural standards, right? So if we look at what people are typically attracted to today, what's considered an attractive person today, that might be completely different than it was 100 years ago, right? We're going to see some changes there, or even 500 years ago, right? It could be culturally dependent, time dependent, different countries of the world today might have different ideas of what it means to be attractive. So that's something for us to consider. Another point that we're going to look at is how similar and how compatible we are with other people. So there is the similarity effect. We are naturally drawn to people who are very similar to us, right? If we have shared interests or values, beliefs, lifestyles, sense of humor, education levels, intelligence levels, personality traits. The more similar we are to other people, we tend to be more attracted to those individuals. All right, so two people, for example, who value traveling and experience adventure and new things may more naturally connect with each other compared to people who have very different types of lifestyles. Okay, so we've heard that phrase opposites attracts. What we find is that that's actually less supported by the research than what most people assume. It's possible. What we want to look at is how much we complement each other, right? So if our shared values are what helps complement each other, or is it the opposites that we have? Are they kind of complementing each other? We kind of fill in those spaces in between each other. Okay. The other thing that we see, and this is something that's changing more in recent times, is what's called the proximity effect. So we're more likely to form friendships with people that we encounter frequently, right? So you're more likely to make friends with people that you work with or you see regularly at school or at the gym, people that we consistently see on a regular basis, where it's more naturally to have friendships or relationships with those people by the mere fact that we encounter them so often. And this plays into what's called the mere exposure effect, where just being exposed to somebody, just being around them over time increases our liking that person. Okay. Where this has changed, though, is with what we'll call digital proximity. All right. So if we go back 50 years or so, you're most likely going to date and marry somebody who lived in the same city as you, because this is somebody that you have easy access to, if you will. But with online dating, right, you can meet people across the world, across the country, and establish those connections. So the internet and all these other apps that we have that connect us with each other are actually taking down the physical proximity and adding more of a digital proximity and offer opportunities for us to form those relationships. Just a couple other things. We also see mood plays a big part in this, right? So if you're experiencing a more happy or relaxed state, you're excited, you're whatever, any kind of positive emotion, well, that kind of puts us in the right frame of mind to be attracted to other people, but then also them seeing that in us could make us more attractive. We tend to draw ourselves towards people who seem to be more happy and content and funny and lively. Okay? One of the things that we're also going to see is this culture plays a huge influence on this. Like we mentioned it before, as far as different cultures around the world, but even if we consider things like the media that we're watching, advertising, historical trends, social expectations, all these different things are important to consider. So like beauty ideals will differ throughout the world. What we consider attractive changes over time, and we see those heavy influences from the media and like celebrity culture and people wanting to kind of be like them. So just reflection questions to kind of close this out on this one. If attraction is shaped by both biology and culture, social factors, how much control do you think we actually have over who we're attracted to? Okay, so that's one question. And then other things for us to consider, other areas is what are the traits that we think are most important that contribute to attraction? Do we think attraction is something that can grow over time? Is that mere exposure effect something that's possible? And then is there a difference between the people that we meet online and have an attraction to versus the people that we meet in person and have an attraction to? Is there a difference there, or what similarities might they share with each other?